The screeching sound of brakes tore through the silence of the steep road near Windsor. Camera flashes reflected off the wet pavement, flickering across the glistening puddles. The Royal Range Rover skidded, swerving toward the roadside ditch, nearly tipping over in a chaotic instant. A scream pierced the night, blending with the sound of metal grinding, an image of sheer panic and confusion. Catherine was pulled from the him, her face pale, eyes wide in shock. Around her, witnesses stood frozen. The only sounds were pounding heartbeats and hurried footsteps splashing on the wet road. The car had been serviced just a week earlier, yet the brakes had failed on the descent. Was it merely an accident or a silent warning from within the royal family? No one knew. Every motion, from the sudden skid to the terrified glance of the passenger, painted an unsettling picture, one that demanded attention. Just hours before, Catherine had left the palace, smiling at the cameras, unaware that the car she rode in might soon betray her. That fleeting, ordinary moment had now become a haunting timestamp, where coincidence and danger intertwined, stirring questions no one could easily answer. So what do you think? Was it a random accident or a calculated move from the shadows of the royal household? If you believe it was an accident, press 1. If you think there is a hidden hand behind it, press 2. October 2025. Buckingham Palace glowed under the brilliance of the royal dinner, a highlight of the year, where every gaze was fixed on one woman who had been absent for nearly half a year. As the grand doors opened, the music softened, and light footsteps echoed through the hall, the entire audience seemed to hold their breath. Catherine, Princess of Wales, had returned, not as a woman recovering from illness, but as a living emblem of grace. She wore a serene blue gown, the color of hope, the very shade once chosen by Princess Diana on her most memorable occasions. The pearl earrings that shimmered beside her face were a perfect replica of the pair Diana had worn during her 1983 royal tour of Australia, when she became the most beloved woman in the world. In just a few moments, all of Britain was swept back in time. Social media erupted with millions of shares, captioned, "Diana's spirit lives again." Slow-motion footage of Catherine descending the staircase, smiling gently at the king, and bowing to the guests flooded global feeds, a vision of rebirth. The British people said they saw in Catherine not just a princess, but a reflection of the woman who once made the whole world weep. The BBC commentator voice trembled with emotion. There are symbols that never die. They merely rest until a pure heart brings them back to life. Western media hailed that night as the return of grace. Leading newspapers like The Guardian, The Times, and Daily Mail all placed Catherine on their front pages, calling her the living continuation of Diana's legacy and the new inspiration for modern Britain. In a world where the monarchy seemed fractured, Catherine's presence was like a breath of purity, a reminder that something noble and untarnished still existed within those ancient palace walls. But in the dim corner of Buckingham's Grand Hall, there was another gaze, cold, calculating, and laced with unease. Camilla, the Queen of England, who had fought through decades of scandal to sit where she now sat, looked at Catherine with a flicker of restrained hostility. The light danced on Catherine's blue gown, and in Camilla's eyes, it was no longer the color of hope, but the hue of threat. Observers noticed it immediately. A royal commentator wrote online, "The whole nation was moved, but in one woman's eyes, Camilla's, that light wasn't rebirth, it was danger." For no one understood better than Camilla what Diana once meant to the world, and how Catherine was now walking that very same path. Catherine's return did not merely evoke the memory of Diana, it reopened the wounds of the past. When Camilla was branded the other woman in that tragic royal triangle, for her, Catherine's choice to mirror Diana's image was like salt in an old scar, a reminder that the ghost of the past still haunted the crown, and her most of all. Headlines soon followed. Catherine carries Diana's gentleness, but her gaze is stronger. Perhaps she is the version of Diana the public once wished for. Those words cut deep, like a blade beneath the Queen's calm exterior. Public debate ignited. Talk shows, podcasts, and tabloids dissected the symbolic meaning behind Catherine's return. Some said it was her gentle message to the people. I am still here, strong and kind, just as my late mother-in-law was. Others believed it was a subtle declaration that Diana's true legacy had never died, and Catherine was the one destined to carry it forward. Amid the noise, one man stayed silent, King Charles. He made no remarks, no praises, no objections, yet his silence only deepened the intrigue. Did Charles, too, feel the same jolt upon seeing his late wife's reflection in his daughter-in-law presence? Or did he understand, better than anyone else, that Catherine's glorification was a silent strike, one that fell squarely upon Camilla, the woman beside him? And then, amid the cheers, amid the praise that Britain has found a new symbol, perhaps only Catherine truly understood that she was walking on a fragile tightrope. On one side stood the love of millions. On the other, the silent, watchful gaze of those who shared the same palace walls. Because in the royal world, where every smile carries hidden meanings, no one is ever entirely a friend, nor completely an enemy. And then, just a few days later, when Catherine was at the peak of her public adoration, when her name still dominated the front pages of every paper, fate began to slip, quite literally. It was not just the beginning of a crisis, but a grim reminder that behind every curtain of glory, a hidden hand might be waiting to tear it all down. Late in the afternoon of November 5th, 2025, the last pale light of day spread softly across the hills surrounding Windsor Castle, creating a scene that seemed unusually peaceful. The weather was dreary. Not a single strong breeze stirred the air. The road winding around the western hill looked ready for a leisurely stroll. But that stillness was only an illusion. Within seconds, it was shattered by the horrifying sound of a car spinning out of control. Catherine's Range Rover suddenly lost its brakes. Sitting inside, her eyes widened in panic as she felt the tires sliding on the asphalt. Her heart pounded. The wind screamed through the cracks of the door. Every second stretched into eternity. The castle's protective fence appeared in sight, but the vehicle kept hurtling toward it, showing no sign of stopping. By sheer luck, the Range Rover stopped just a few meters short of the fence. Catherine gasped for breath, her hands trembling, her face drained of color. No one was injured, but her composure was clearly shattered. A seemingly minor mishap was enough to make her feel, with chilling clarity, the thin line between safety and disaster. She looked around, no other cars, no people in sight, only the long, dark skid marks etched into the pavement, a silent reminder that luck had been on her side this time. Police arrived almost immediately, sealing off the entire area. Yellow tape was stretched across the road. No vehicle was allowed to pass. Security personnel quickly blocked journalists and onlookers behind strict barricades. From afar, the scene looked more like a criminal investigation than a traffic accident. A few reporters tried to sneak in for a photo, but were swiftly warned off or escorted out entirely. The heavy presence of patrol cars, officers, and guards filled the air with tension, as if all of Windsor was holding its breath. Local witnesses spoke with trembling voices, still haunted by what they had seen. The car raced uncontrollably like a wild torrent. I did not hear any brakes at all. Not a sound, said a nearby resident. Another, who had watched from the hillside, exclaimed, "The car flew by like no one was driving it. And thank God, she made it out alive." These testimonies only deepened the strangeness of the incident. One particular detail caught investigators' attention. Catherine's car had been serviced at a private garage, a garage that had also maintained vehicles belonging to Queen Camilla and her son, Tom Parker Bowles. The coincidence immediately sparked questions. Was it truly an accident, or had someone orchestrated an event so subtle that it left no obvious trace? When coincidences start piling up, sometimes they stop being coincidences. Technical experts later analyzed the situation, concluding that for a car to lose its brakes completely on a dry, smooth road, an external factor or a major mechanical failure must have been involved, something extremely rare for a professionally serviced vehicle. The fact that the garage had also handled Camilla's and Tom Parker Bowles' cars only intensified the speculation. Had someone exploited this connection to create danger, or was it truly an unfortunate malfunction? Meanwhile, Catherine remained seated inside the car, seemingly unable to believe she was safe. Her hands still clutched the steering wheel. Her eyes darted around. Her heart pounded. One witness described, "She looked like she had just come out of a nightmare, but no one could approach her because the area was completely sealed off by security." The sight of her motionless car against the dimming light, the deep tire marks, and the eerie calm after chaos formed an image so vivid and tense that it left an indelible mark on anyone who saw it. Investigators questioned the garage staff and reviewed the surveillance footage, only to find that the CCTV system had suffered a technical glitch precisely at the time when Catherine's car was being serviced. Adding to the mystery, several employees from the same garage abruptly quit and could not be contacted afterward. These seemingly isolated details, when pieced together, formed a chain of coincidences too perfect to ignore. A security analyst later commented, "Too many coincidences make a pattern, and this pattern feels scripted." The car serviced at a garage linked to Camilla and Tom Parker Bowles, missing employees, malfunctioning CCTV. None of it looks random. His words echoed through the media, leaving the public wondering just how deep the danger ran, and what hidden forces might have been at play behind what seemed, at first glance, like a simple accident. The late afternoon fell. A pale golden light washed over the road around Windsor Castle, reflecting the skid marks still etched on the asphalt. The Range Rover lay there motionless, a silent witness to the recent event. After the shock, Catherine was helped out of the car, but her eyes still showed worry and vigilance. The big question remained unanswered. If this was only an accident, why did the people involved suddenly disappear? Who was behind it? If anyone, and what would they gain from putting Catherine in danger? Every detail, from the scene to the garage, from the skid marks to the mysterious disappearance of staff, was recorded and became a piece of the next investigative puzzle. Brake failure, Catherine's panic, the skid marks on the road, and the suspicious questions around the private garage all blended into a story that was vivid and mysterious, opening up questions with no clear answers. If this was only an accident, was it a perfect accident that made all of Windsor hold its breath? Or were invisible hands watching Catherine's every move? Immediately after the terrifying crash involving Catherine on the late afternoon of November 5th, 2025, a chain of suspicions arose among investigators and the royal press. Catherine's Range Rover suddenly lost its brakes on the road around the western hill of Windsor Castle, forcing her to endure several terrifying seconds as the car sped toward the fence. Fortunately for Aisha, the vehicle stopped just a few meters from the fence. Catherine was uninjured but shaken. What seemed like a simple incident quickly became a focal point when one particular detail was revealed. The car had been serviced at a private garage that had previously serviced vehicles for Camilla and her son, Tom Parker Bowles. Tom Parker Bowles, Queen Camilla's son, long known as a famous food critic appearing on many television shows, magazines, and international culinary events, usually appears in a familiar, humorous light. This time, his name appearing in the context of the accident made everything serious. Leaked sources revealed that Tom was present at the garage on the same day Catherine's car was serviced. This coincidence immediately raised many questions. Why would a food critic appear in an auto repair shop? And what role did he have in the subsequent incident? Some satirical commentators did not miss the opportunity to season the suspicion: a culinary expert checking the car's brakes, or the person assigned to add some spice to a covert plan. The remark was humorous and suggestive, making listeners laugh and shiver at the same time at the thought that an invisible hand might be behind a seemingly simple incident. Investigators began to trace details around the garage. A technician involved in servicing Catherine's car suddenly quit just hours after the accident, citing personal reasons that no one could verify. The timing of the resignation matched perfectly with the accident, prompting many to ask, was this mere coincidence or a deliberate action to clear the way after the incident? The garage's CCTV system experienced a technical fault precisely when Catherine's car was being serviced, causing all footage of the inspection and maintenance process to disappear. The remaining fragments of data could not provide clear evidence of what had occurred. The coincidence of the technician leaving, the CCTV failing, and Tom Parker Bowles being present at the garage led investigators to suspect that this accident was not simply an ordinary crash. Furthermore, Tom's phone was turned off at the exact time the accident occurred, making contact with him during that critical period impossible. From an investigative perspective, these seemingly separate details, when combined, formed an implausible chain of coincidences that raised the question whether this was truly an accident or a carefully prepared plot. Security experts commented, "Too many coincidences form a perfect chain, the type of coincidence that only appears in scripted scenarios." The car serviced at a garage that had served Camilla and Tom Parker Bowles. Staff quitting, CCTV malfunctioning, phone switched off. None of it seems random. This tone evoked mystery and tension and made the public curious about Tom's true role in the incident. Some internal sources said Tom did not directly inspect the car, but his presence was enough to affect the mindset of the garage staff. An unnamed technician shared, "No one wanted to take risks or make mistakes in front of someone with close ties to Queen Camilla." This prompted many analysts to ask, was Tom's presence exploited to create a dangerous situation and then make all evidence vanish? Meanwhile, Catherine remained stunned after the ordeal inside the car. Her hands trembled, her eyes wide, her heart racing, as if she had narrowly escaped a disaster. The image of her standing beside the Range Rover, looking down at the skid marks on the road, became vivid evidence of the seriousness of the incident. The pale evening light combined with the unusual silence around the scene to create an atmosphere both lively and tense, making every development noteworthy. Investigators continued to check links between Tom Parker Bowles, the garage, and those around them. They found a sequence of events. Tom was at the garage, the technician quit, the CCTV failed, the phone was off, and all these happened at the time of Catherine's accident. This coincidence was hard to explain as random, forming a mysterious picture that would make any investigator pause and reflect. From a strategic analysis perspective, if someone were truly behind the event, what would they gain by endangering Catherine? Royal analysts pointed out that even a small incident involving a royal family member could have a major impact on image, power, and legitimacy. Therefore, Tom Parker Bowles' role and the coincidences surrounding the garage became particularly sensitive and important. In that tense atmosphere, the question remained, was Tom Parker Bowles merely coincidentally at the garage, or did he play a key role in a sophisticated chain of events? Every small detail, from the timing coincidences and the staff's mysterious absence to the CCTV fault and Tom's phone being off, became links in a complex and mysterious investigative puzzle. Dusk settled in, casting a pale light over the winding road around Windsor Castle, reflecting the skid marks left behind by the runaway car. The string of suspicions surrounding Tom Parker Bowles continued to unfold, opening a scenario with no clear answers. Both the public and investigators were left wondering, was this truly just an accident, or was it part of a carefully orchestrated plot in which a food critic somehow became a key link in a much deeper, more mysterious plan? With all the coincidences and unsettling details, the story of Catherine's accident was far from an ordinary car crash. It unveiled a series of questions about power, relationships, and motives, where Tom Parker Bowles, once merely a familiar face in the culinary world, suddenly stood at the center of suspicion, setting the stage for a tense and enigmatic investigation yet to come. This chain of events not only sparked public curiosity, but also forced investigators to reflect. Who truly stood behind it all? And what would they gain from putting Catherine in danger? Every clue seemed to lead to another question, pulling the audience deeper into an unfolding investigation where every detail could be a vital piece of evidence, and every coincidence was too suspicious to ignore. As the golden light faded over Windsor Castle, the seemingly calm atmosphere turned heavy with tension. After the terrifying moment when Catherine's Range Rover lost its brakes, the public's attention quickly shifted, not just toward her safety, but toward Queen Camilla, who now felt the growing pressure of Catherine's ever-rising popularity. Camilla had long lived in the shadow of Diana. Though she eventually secured her place beside Charles, the public never forgot Diana, the symbol of compassion, warmth, and timeless grace. For Camilla, that comparison remained a haunting wound, a reminder that she had never truly won the heart of the people. Catherine, with her soft demeanor, elegance, and relatability, quickly captured public affection, emerging as the new symbol of grace and kindness in the eyes of the world. Every gesture, every smile, was praised and subtly compared to Diana's. Camilla could feel it. Though she wore the crown, she risked being outshined in the hearts of the people. Royal observers noted that this sense of threat was not merely about reputation, but about the deeper conflict of spiritual power. Camilla might have claimed the throne, but she lost the people's love. And now, as a new duchess emerged to claim that affection, Camilla's pride was shaken. One sharp commentator quipped, "Camilla won the crown, but lost the crowd." The remark was biting, revealing the deep divide between royal status and public loyalty. In this context, analysts began to question the motives behind Catherine's incident. From a strategic point of view, diminishing public attention toward Catherine would allow Charles and Camilla to regain focus, strengthening the Queen's standing. It was no coincidence that certain events seemed perfectly timed, from the car's brake failure to the rapid swirl of rumors online, creating an effect that both warned and subdued Catherine's growing influence. Royal political analysts argued that power within the monarchy was not held solely by title, but by image, by the hearts of the people. When a figure like Catherine shines too brightly, the delicate balance between the throne and public affection becomes unstable. Camilla, with her sharp political instinct, likely knew that maintaining her supremacy required controlling the narrative and neutralizing any emerging threats. A well-known observer once remarked sarcastically, "When power feels threatened by affection, even the screech of brakes can sound like a warning." The line carried both irony and weight, hinting that in the royal world, even a random car malfunction could be seen as a subtle message of control, a quiet warning disguised as coincidence. Camilla's possible motive can also be understood through a psychological lens. She may feel the need to protect her position, not only before Charles but also against Catherine, whose growing popularity seemed to erode her own influence. Each time Catherine appeared in public and received praise, Camilla could sense her authority slipping. This was no longer about reputation. It had become a silent war for prominence and loyalty, a battle where emotion and royal politics intertwined. Adding to the intrigue was Tom Parker Bowles' unexpected presence at the garage that serviced Catherine's car. Though no direct evidence linked Camilla to the incident, the chain of coincidences surrounding her son's involvement only deepened public suspicion. Was someone subtly pulling the strings, turning circumstance into warning? In the eyes of royal watchers, Camilla appeared both powerful and conflicted. She had fought to win Charles, endured storms alongside Diana, and now faced a new rival in Catherine, a woman adored, uncontainable, and untouchable in the hearts of the people. This tension, fused with pride and ambition, formed a quiet but potent motive, making every small event seem suspect. As twilight descended over Windsor, the castle's lights shimmered against the stone walls, a reflection of royal grandeur. Yet beneath that majestic glow, unease lingered. The world continued to watch every move, Catherine's grace, Camilla's composure, while behind the scenes, silent players calculated, observed, and controlled the unfolding game of power. The final question still hangs in the air, setting the stage for what comes next. What will the royal family do to control the narrative and preserve their image? Will they allow rumors to spread, or will they silence everything, even the truth itself? The tension between power, public sentiment, and personal ambition paints a complete picture of the motives behind the incident, where Camilla is not merely a queen but a complex, conflicted, and strategic figure. Every detail, from the strained look in Camilla's eyes as she watched Catherine being praised, to the seemingly random incidents around Windsor, becomes a piece of a vivid puzzle of power, ambition, and calculation within the monarchy. And, as with every royal mystery, the story behind Catherine's appearance remains unresolved, waiting for the next chapter to reveal what truly lies beneath. Moments after news of the Princess of Wales's accident broke, Buckingham Palace swiftly issued a short statement. The Princess of Wales is safe. There is no indication of foul play, just a few carefully chosen words. No photos, no videos, no further clarification. In the world of the British monarchy, a single cold sentence can carry more weight than 1,000 reports. Every word is measured to maintain distance, calm the public while containing the conversation. This silence immediately drew comparisons to 1997, when Diana's death shook the world. Back then, the palace also chose evasion, issuing minimal statements to control public reaction while concealing every sensitive detail. History, it seems, was repeating itself, the same silence, the same avoidance, preventing the public from ever grasping the full truth. And within each brief royal statement lies a quiet sophistication, where facts are filtered, reshaped, and softened so that only what the palace wants to be seen remains visible, while the rest fades into obscurity. The investigative tone grows colder. The British royal family has always known how to blur the truth, with words cold enough to freeze suspicion. No images, no videos, no tangible evidence. Every piece of information is tightly controlled, leaving the public with no choice but to trust official statements. Yet it is precisely that official tone that feels so questionable. Those words do more than reassure. They command silence. It is an unspoken warning. Stop here. Go no further. As the media and the public search desperately for more answers, the royal family's silence only deepened, colder, more deliberate than ever. Some commentators sneered. In their world, silence isn't about respect. It's about concealment. The remark exposed a reality impossible to deny. Those at the top of the monarchy do not need to explain. Their power alone shapes perception and steers belief. A single look, a short phrase, or a one-line statement is enough to extinguish speculation. This creates a stark divide between the monarchy and its people. While the public longs for information, eager for updates about Catherine's condition, all they receive are brief, distant words, no images, no footage, no confirmations. Everything remains wrapped in mystery, a fog both intriguing and protective, designed to preserve royal dignity while fueling public curiosity. The silence also recalls the royal family's long-standing strategy for managing crises. Whenever sensitive events occur, rather than disclosing full details, the palace filters information, offering just enough to calm the crowd, but never enough to reveal what lies beneath. The result is a carefully muted version of reality, where the public sees only a fraction of the picture, while the rest is hidden, edited, and controlled. And amid this silence, one familiar name echoes once more: Diana. The comparison is no coincidence. Her shadow still lingers, a constant measure against which the public judges every royal figure. As Catherine rises in grace and admiration, the palace's restraint feels even more deliberate, as if to protect the present while quietly reminding the world that the past has never truly vanished. In the end, the royal family's cold silence is not mere restraint. It is a calculated weapon, a tool to shape the story on their terms. The public may wonder, suspect, and speculate, but all must stop at the boundary set by those who control the narrative. In this world, truth does not belong to the people. It belongs to those who master silence, those who know how to turn words into soft but sharp instruments capable of silencing any question. And inevitably, through all the whispers and scrutiny, one name continues to haunt every conversation: Diana. Her memory stands as a reminder that royal silence is never meaningless. It is a refined strategy, perfected over generations, where truth can be dimmed, but the shadow of power remains ever present. The accident near Windsor shocked the public not only because it endangered the Princess of Wales, but because it carried an unsettling familiarity. The ghost of Diana seemed to flicker again in every detail, every camera flash, every curt statement from Buckingham Palace. When the Range Rover lost its brakes and veered toward the fence, mercifully without injury, it was impossible not to think of Paris, 1909, where Diana, on another familiar road, paid the ultimate price in a crash still clouded by unanswered questions. The comparison is not merely symbolic. It mirrors a familiar pattern, incidents involving powerful women in the British royal family. The silence of those in command swiftly erased clues, and the public's reaction, outrage, concern, yet helplessness. As Catherine sat in the car, her panic barely subsiding, an invisible curtain was drawn. The royal family swiftly extinguished every detail, releasing a brief statement, enough to calm the public, but not enough to satisfy their curiosity. It was the same strategy Diana once endured, a cold silence, every piece of evidence and testimony tightly controlled, traces of the incident fading or blurred, while the press could only rely on what was permitted to be released. The resemblance sent a chill through observers and the public alike. Catherine, though living in the 21st century, now faces the same pressures and dangers that haunted the woman who came before her 28 years ago. The investigative voice could not hide its irony and dread. Catherine is living inside a mirror that reflects Diana's fate, the woman who dared to love, to be real, and was threatened by the very world she belonged to. That line exposes the cruel reality of royal life, a cycle of destiny for the women who step into the palace. Beauty, grace, and compassion can all become double-edged weapons in a power system built on control and calculation. Catherine's fear in that moment, as the car skidded, as she realized she was powerless against forces beyond her control, became a haunting symbol of the tragedy Diana once lived. It was no coincidence that the public made the connection. A young woman adored by millions, suddenly facing danger born not from accident, but from the silent machinery of royal image and influence. This raises a painful question about destiny itself. Are the women who dare to live authentically, who love, feel, and show their humanity, doomed to pay a price behind palace walls? Are these incidents, the failed breaks, the calculated silences, the erased traces, mere coincidences, or recurring patterns woven into the very structure of royal control? Public emotion after the event reached a fever pitch. People feared for Catherine's safety, raged at the royal family's silence, and inevitably compared her to Diana. Fear, tragedy, and history collided, creating a storm of emotion, where every detail, from Catherine's terrified gaze to the shriek of the brakes and the palace's sterile statements, became part of an unresolved royal drama. Every clue, no matter how small, was examined, connected to echoes of the past. The public was not merely reacting to the present, they were seeing Diana's ghost in every frame, asking themselves, is history repeating itself? Is the royal family running a well-oiled machine where women who shine too brightly, who connect too deeply with the public, must bear the weight of hidden pressure? The tension seeped beyond the headlines, into Catherine's own psyche. Every step she took, every smile she gave, was dissected, as though every gaze measured her suitability and safety within royal life. The weight Diana once carried now pressed on Catherine's shoulders, a destiny repeating itself, where past and present blur into one relentless test of spirit and survival. And as information remained filtered, with every sensitive detail locked away, one question echoed through the minds of journalists and citizens alike. Does Catherine have the courage to break that curse? Can she live truthfully, wield her influence without being consumed by the same cycle that destroyed Diana? In the fading light over Windsor, Diana's shadow lingered, a silent, powerful reminder. The brake failure might have lasted only seconds, yet the sense of danger, tragedy, and invisible control endured. The public watched Catherine with hope, anxiety, and restrained fury, while the royal family maintained its perfect silence, as if every answer had been decided long before. And every woman who dares to shine must once again face the same fate. At that moment, in Windsor's calm twilight, the link to the past became undeniable. Catherine, though spared by luck, now lives within Diana's reflection, and the story remains unfinished, waiting to see whether she will have the strength to shatter the pattern or be drawn into the same quiet tragedy that has haunted the palace for generations. Looking back at the entire incident, it's difficult to call it a simple accident. Too many coincidences, too many random details, for luck to be the explanation. In a palace where every door is guarded, nothing is ever truly accidental. Every move, every word is carefully managed. An investigative voice cut through the silence. The royal family always knows how to make things disappear. Sometimes the gloire, sometimes the truth. And between those coldly worded statements and brief official notes lies an undeniable reality. Power always knows how to hide, to steer the narrative, and to protect what it chooses to protect. Perhaps the broken brakes were just a technical fault. Or perhaps they were a quiet warning to a woman who dared to live honestly, to shine amidst pretense and surveillance. And in the end, the question remains, what do you think? Was this accident mere coincidence or a meticulously planned message from the shadows?